So, you've been on the job a year. Is it a lot different than you thought it would be when... I remember when we talked in Montreal the night you won, and you said, well, I thought I'd win, and I knew how it was going to work out. So now you've been here for a year. Has it been more or less the way you thought it would be, or has it been more difficult?
I knew it would be very demanding. I know the history of my country. I know how much the leaders of the opposition are under pressure. They need to deliver every day, and I'm ready for that.
And in terms of lessons learned this first year, is there something you learned that you didn't know before, either about yourself, about the Liberal Party, or maybe about the Harper government and the House of Commons?
Not really. What I have learned is the difficulty for a leader of the opposition to release policies and to be sure that they will be noticed, because you are running after the media to be... The media will report what you are doing, but at the same time to keep enough under your elbow to be ready for the election, to come with some surprises that may convince the people. So this balance is always something that is not natural to me. I would like to say everything right now.
And I guess, too, in terms of putting out policies, and this happens, every government does this to every opposition, they either steal them or attack them. If they're really good, they'll take them from you, and if they see a weakness in them or a divisiveness in them, then they'll attack you on them. And so
I'm very proud that in 2007 we came with a climate change policy that has been praised by the experts, the environmental groups, without any exception that I know, as the best policy for Canada. That when we came with our poverty plan to decrease the poverty by 1/3 in Canada and half for the children, it has been praised by the groups fighting poverty as the best plan. So when we come with something and it is well received like that, about income trust, when we propose something to correct the breach of trust the government has done for our seniors about income trust, and we propose something that has been well received, I'm proud. I'm saying, in my mind, we are not there only to criticize the government, but to offer a credible option that will receive their support at the next election.
I must say that it's not an interview about me, but one thing that surprised me is the life of the income trust issue. That, it happened in Halloween of 2006, and people are still talking about it, and the people who don't like it are still organized about it, and now they're making allegations that maybe there was unregistered lobbying about it and these kind of things, and it may even be sort of, if not a scandal, scandalous. Do you think that, are those avenues that the Liberal Party is interested in, or do you think it's an economic issue and maybe, a broken promise issue?
You have people who have lost their savings overnight. It's terrible for them. But what you need to add to that is that the Prime Minister was not in the obligation to give them his word that he would not tax income trust. It was not the obligation to give his word to Newfoundlanders and Nova Scotians that he would always respect the Atlantic Accord. He broke his word many times. He broke his word again when he said that it will be a transparent government. And then we learned that at the last minute they released a report showing that they were spending more on polls than us, and they didn't want this report to be known. This manipulative approach of the government is not well received by Canadians.
And so how do you package that up as you get ready for an election? And I'll ask you about that in a moment. But, I mean, under what heading do you make that an argument and a platform or an attack point, rather than, you can tick off 4 or 5 things, but unless you can focus it, people aren't going to get it, I don't think.
Yes, I agree with you. I think there is the idea of sincerity. I think people perceive me as very sincere, never broke my word, and the contrast with the Prime Minister, its manipulative, secretive approach will be striking, and also the direction we want to give to this country. I think people will see more and more concretely what we mean by a more prosperous Canada, a fairer Canada, and a greener Canada. And how these 3, economy, environment, and social justice, are not silos, but go together. When everybody is able to give his or her best to the country because we give them an opportunity, when you give this opportunity in order not only to have a strong economy for ourselves, but for the next generations through a sustainable, competitive economy, people will compare that with the mistakes the Conservatives have done, like the Baird Plan and what Minister Baird did in Bali, embarrassing Canada in a way that we cannot accept. And for all these reasons, I'm very confident that if there is an election, I'm sure it's your question, in 2008, Canadians will be very, very impressed by what we have to offer.
Well, I know we talked when you were in Bali, but it seemed to me that at the end of the day, Mr. Baird got a standing ovation. So didn't he recover his ground?
Including by me, because we were
so now is the environment now not an issue? If you're cheering him,
yeah, because we are so
afraid.
We were so afraid that he would continue to obstruct. He tried until the last minute, and for the last vote, when he was alone, and all the world, except Russia for a while, were telling him, okay, now, come with us. Finally, he said yes. But in my mind, I thought, if it would have been a majority government, he would have said, I don't give a damn. Only the pressure, not only of the opposition, but you have all the environmental groups and the world asking him to do the right thing, he caved in. But so reluctantly, that it showed that for the next 2 years, during the negotiations to know if we will have an international plan after the first phase of Kyoto for 2013, we need to change the government to go there. Because this government does not really believe about what we need to do to fight the worst ecological threat humanity is facing.
So you don't think he really changed his mind? He just decided...
No, but he said that after. He thinks it's a bad idea, that Canada should not go ahead as long as China and India do not accept binding targets. We know that they will not accept it. We want them, though, to accept, to do their share, to come with their own plan. But binding targets, Canada must take one, certainly, to show the example and to take the lead.
Okay, so you were quoted as saying, I think on the anniversary of your election as leader, well, we can't go on forever voting confidence in the government and have any credibility, particularly when we don't really like what they're doing, but we weren't ready for an election. So now are you ready for an election? Are you going to try and defeat the government?
The point we made, and we have been praised by Canadians everywhere I went, and my MPs are saying the same, is that in 2007 there were no appetite for an election. We would have started the election in October. It may have taken maybe a week or two before people would focus on the election. And this is not good for us. We are the opposition. We'd like, ideally, that the very first day the campaign starts, people look at what we have to propose in comparison with the Conservative government. So the more the people will be in their mind, oh yes, there is a federal election, it was time, the better it will be for us. So it's why in 2007 we thought that it would not have been good. But in 2008, it's another ball game, because the government will be 2 years old. It's a minority government, not a very good government. So maybe people will be more focusing, more willing to revisit their vote 2 years ago. And at that time, 2008, everything is possible.
Well, you may or may not get an opposition day before the budget, because they remember how they didn't get opposition days in the last days of the Martin government, as the government was trying to hang on. But if you were to get an opposition day, might you move a non-confidence motion in an opposition day, or will you wait to see what happens with the estimates and the budget?
I don't know. I need to see the budget. I cannot, with you today, discuss a budget both of us have not seen. When will that...
But if you wrote a motion before the budget, you wouldn't have to wait for the budget. You would have made up your mind, I want to have an election before a budget.
I don't know. Look, I cannot speculate. Just want to say that everywhere I went in 2007, people were like this, thank you, we didn't want an election. So on the Hill, many of your colleagues said, oh, what the Liberals are doing, they will lose their credibility. It did not happen. But I agree with you that you cannot keep alive a government that wants to be defeated at any cost too long. Will come a time where, oh, you want to be defeated, Mr. Harper? Okay, you are defeated. Now, let's go, we go in an election. It will happen. I don't know if it will happen in 2008, but it's likely that it may happen.
Okay, so you're working on your platform. Have you got your team together, and have you been able to bring in people from the other leadership camps into your team? And,
oh, yes.
And you're happy you have an election team now? If something happened right away, you could go?
We know that if we are not the government today, part of the reason is because we tried to be the government in the opposition at the same time in the past. We made the mistake to be divided between ourselves. We'll not repeat this mistake anymore. The first step I have done once I became the leader was to bring together all my fellow candidates. And now we are a great team. I'm pleased by the work everyone is doing. Many of my colleagues would like to have a bigger role because they are good. And I cannot accommodate all the ambitions because we are a great team. But everybody understands that we are good because we are together, and we have to deliver to Canadians a united Liberal Party for a united Canada.
Stéphane Dion, wish we had more time, but thank you for spending this time. And again, Merry Christmas to you and your family.